Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.
Peace, peace, peace. Assalamu alaikum. Once again, we are back with another episode of Behind the Final Call cover story. This week's edition, volume number 1, number 16, and the date on the paper is January 25th, 2022. Man, a blessing that this year is already flying by. Time is flying, it's flying, it's flying. Please make sure that you take the opportunity now to invite your friends, families, guests, whoever, even your enemies. Maybe if you invite them, they won't be your enemy anymore. But please make sure that you go ahead and invite them now as we continue with the program. And this edition, of course, the cover story is The Divine Destruction of America. Severe weather disasters continue to punish the United States, a great nation prophesied to fall. How, why? The answers are in this week's Final Call cover story on page 3. And of course, we have the editor of the paper, Brother Elijah Muhammad. Brother Elijah, why this cover story?
Well, first of all, assalamu alaikum, and this is volume 41, of course, number 16. We wanted to really tell this story, but we wanted to tell it in a particular way. Right now on the East Coast and the Southeast, the Northeast, they're looking at storms that have really literally impacted the lives of millions of people. At one point, these storms had impacted about 50 million people. So the population on the East Coast of the United States is still grappling with this phenomenon, grappling with these conditions, but now I just saw something that said there may be other storms coming even later this week. But what we wanted to do more than just report what was happening in terms of current events, we really wanted to provide the insight and the understanding, the divine understanding that comes from the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who has said to us that this is the day of America's judgment. As a matter of fact, his article deals with that very subject, as does Minister Farrakhan. So we feel that it's always important not just to report what is happening, but we're trying to give insight, and we're trying to give warning, and we're trying to give understanding. And we're trying to have our people and anyone who would read the paper get an understanding of the time and what must be done. So this article talks about those extreme weather disasters, or it's interesting that they're called acts of God, right? That's the colloquial term for these types of disasters, acts of God. But what we're saying is that they are literal acts of God, the supreme being right now, moving against the United States. For its evil done in particular. For its evil done in particular to us, Black people, the children of our once slaves, and also to the indigenous people of this country. And so what we wanted to do alongside giving that prophetic understanding and warning was to give actual facts. So, for example, we've seen now, even as 2022 begins, major storms, major disasters. But 2021 was an incredible year for disasters when it came to the United States. There were over 20 different events, disastrous events in America last year, whose damages totaled over $1 billion each. Now imagine that. And you're not just talking about the destruction of property. You're starting to talk about now how much of this can the insurance industry take. You're talking about the loss of life, the psychological damage, and even how do you even rebuild some of these things. And all of these things happening in the age of COVID. And over the last probably decade or so, there's actually been about $1 trillion lost because of these acts of God. So we wanted to give people, our people, and anyone that would take the time to read. You can read at finalcall.com, or of course you can get the subscription. You can get the paper from the brothers out on the street, or you can subscribe to the digital edition. So that's what this week's article is about. We have a companion article from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as well.
Praise you to Allah. Thank you, brother Naba. And of course, I mean, this is a phrase that we know the minister for. I don't remember the first year that the minister really began to put emphasis on watch the weather. And
Mhm.
the article in the paper talks about how, it's a continuation from last year, that it increasingly gets worse every year and it's expected to continue to get worse every year. So definitely Allah's hand is in this and involved. And for those, this is a quick plug for those who have not heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's box album set, Let's Change the World. The minister has a song, I believe it's the one with Snoop, and he says, "I'll fight you," and he's talking about how God will fight his enemies and is fighting his enemies using the weather. So I'll see if we can find the link so that you can make sure that you get that box set. For those who may not know about it, the minister's piece, "Let's Change the World." So praise be to
And,
Allah.
and, and, and I think it's also very important because we often have people invoke the name of God or speak of God. But very rarely do we have people invoke the name of God or speak of God in terms of Him being the master of a particular day
That's right.
and not talking about what this current world, or we say this civilization, not the physical planet, will face. So, in the minister's article, which is titled The Divine Destruction of America, Can She Avert It? The minister writes both the Bible and Holy Quran speak of judgment and of the hour and the day of judgment and the hour of doom. Allah says in the Holy Quran that He is the master of the day of judgment. Why should there even be a judgment? When you get judgment, it means a judge has rendered a decision. Judgment, according to the dictionary, is the ability to judge, to make a decision, or form an opinion objectively, authoritatively, and wisely, especially in matters affecting action, good sense, discretion, misfortune regarded as misfortune regarded as afflicted by divine sentence is also a judgment, and also the last judgment, the final trial of all mankind, of both the living and the dead at the end of the world. So when we talk about judgment, this is what we're talking about. A reality that is unfolding in front of our eyes. And so when we talk about the dead, we are not talking about people who are in cemeteries. We are talking about people who are mentally, morally, spiritually, economically dead, meaning that they are non-productive, meaning that they don't know who they are, they don't know the time, so they function on a dead level, right? Not cemeteries. And so there must be a message spoken that will awaken people. And so this is, as the minister talks about the divine destruction of America, one of the other things that he says is, now again, we said America is bound to be destroyed for her evil done to us, enslavement of us, murder of us, oppression of us. And when you read in the Bible, you see what happened to the children of Israel, right? You read in the Bible other wicked civilizations being destroyed, wicked kings being set down. Well, the wickedness that we see today is far, far, far less than what was seen yesterday. So do we think that there would not be a judgment in this day and time? Well, Brother Naba, people have been talking about judgment for a long time. Absolutely. You think in the Bible, I believe it says that Noah preached for 125 years. That time, as the minister has said, is to enable people to come to grips with God's judgment and to get themselves in line.
That's right.
Before the final judgment, the final execution of his will comes. So now, the Nation of Islam is almost that message, this message is almost 100 years old in America. But the minister and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad have also said that all of the signs of the end, the signs we read of in the Bible, the signs we read of in the Holy Quran, all of them have been fulfilled.
That's right.
So that means that this judgment can come at any day and any time. So the minister asked the question in his article, how is God going to destroy America? What instrument is he going to use? Whenever God gets ready to destroy any people, he sends that people a warner. And the warner is always raised among the oppressed. Well, there's nobody more oppressed than us and the native peoples of this country. That's God's pattern. If America is going down, and she is, who are the oppressed? It's either the Native Americans or you, the blacks. You have suffered worse than the Native Americans because the Native American can still speak some of his language, something of his history. Well, both Bible and Quran talk about this time of upheaval and the absolute final physical destruction of the wicked. And so the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's article this week is the 4 great judgments of America. And what he said is, this is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, to be plagued with too much rain will destroy property and lives. It swells the rivers and creeks. Too much rain floods cities and towns. Large bodies of water at the ocean lines will be made to swell with unusually high waves, dumping billions of tons of water over the Nile seashore line. Rain destroys property and kills cattle by drowning them in lowlands. Rain destroys the hiding places of vicious beasts and reptiles, bringing them out fighting in small towns and people's homes. He later says in this article, snow is what is of the most dreaded plagues when it comes to great drifts from 5 to 35 feet. It buries your property and lives. It destroys your highways, your cities, and your concrete and gravel in towns and cities. It puts a great burden of expense on cities. And you have had cities, what do you think all these cities are going to do in the South that basically have no budget for snow? None, because they never get it. What are they going to do? What is that going to mean in terms of the cost? What is it going to mean for roads? What is it going to mean for the repair of power lines? And as companies engage in those things, surely you don't think that they're going to eat those costs themselves. Or even you have the situation last year in Texas where there was a sudden winter-like storm and they basically lost power, heat, everything. Because what was supposed to have been invested in was not invested in. So this is a very serious time, and we want you to really read the 4 Great Judgments of America by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the minister's article, The Divine Destruction of America, Can She Avert It? Because we need more than just information today. We need also insight, and we need proper perspective so that we have an understanding of what is going on And with that understanding, we now know what is demanded of us in this critical time, critical hour.
Praise it to Allah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And of course, we encourage you, even though this when you see the articles in the paper from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in many instances, and definitely always from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they're really usually extracts of
Excerpts.
excerpts. Thank you. I'm like, that didn't sound right. Excerpts from lectures or books or articles that have come out of other documents. So the lecture from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is a lecture that was delivered at Mosque Mariam on June 9th, 1996. And we strongly encourage you to go to store.finalcall.com and you can actually get that lecture. And not only, of course, it's good to be able to read that excerpt, but being able to actually hear the entire lecture, we'd encourage you to do that. And I believe many of the lectures and definitely all of the books of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad are still on sale right now. So take the opportunity to check those out. And of course, the excerpt from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is actually from the book The Fall of America. And still, those books are still on sale. You can get the hardback for $10 and you can get the softback for only $5. So we encourage you to do just that. I think we're going to take it back a little bit and to the earlier, which is page 2 of the paper, which is an article, Black Men Not Working, How Our Community Loses $50 billion to Joblessness, Incarceration, Death.
Right. And that's actually black men not working. Black men not working. How our community loses $50 billion to joblessness, incarceration, and death. And this is from a study that was done that found. I mean, I want you to really listen and think about this. That one, the joblessness rate for black men, according to this research, is literally 3 times more than what's generally reported. And it says that there's generally thought to be a gap between basically black men and men of other races who are prime working age, that there's about 900,000 black men kind of missing from that equation. So when it comes to our economics, generally it's thought that there's about 900,000 men who are missing, that are not working, not building wealth, not generating income. But what this report is saying is that no, it's more than that. And this report was done by the Center for Economic and Policy Research. And it was mind-blowing to me. And because, one, we all know that in the best of times, right, black unemployment is double that of white, period. But we also know that unemployment stats, the way they keep them, they do not count people who stop looking for work. But in addition, the report talks about how, when it comes to looking at joblessness and its impact, black male joblessness and its impact on our people, we are losing $50 billion a year. I really hope that you are listening and trying to think to yourself, man, what could we do with $50 billion every year if we had it? And so it says, the report talks about the way the figures are compiled is one reason why there's kind of a disconnect in the reporting and the information. So, for example, things like black men being missing when it comes to census data very often, they're not reporting. When it comes to the underreporting or not reporting of black men who work in lower wage jobs. But even more than that, this report talks about prime working age black men who are incarcerated at a rate of 6 times that of white men. 6 times the rate. Black men incarcerated at 6 times the rate of white men. And not just any black men, but you're talking prime working age black men that are basically earning nothing at that point. Nothing for themselves, nothing for their families, nothing for their neighborhoods. As a matter of fact, because they're incarcerated, they're more likely to be dependent on anything they get from family, friends, and those from their own neighborhood. So that's a very serious problem. $50 billion a year. That means in 2 years we lose $100 billion in 2 years, not coming into our community, not being invested into businesses, not taking care of children, not buying property, not paying for education, not paying for good health care, not paying for social causes, not getting involved in politics in terms of fundraisers. $50 billion deficit. So we wanted to point that out, and it to me, and really want you to read the article because I think it's very important and very fascinating. And it points to the fact that we have to do everything within our power to support ourselves. We cannot sit around and wait for somebody else to do for us what we can and must do for ourselves. America is falling, brothers and sisters. As the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said 2 years ago, we are looking and living in and living through the unraveling of a great nation.
That's right.
When you listen to the news, the economic news, the political news, the social, the news of the society, it is saying to you that America is falling. It's unraveling. You have people right today talking about they don't know if the American democratic system can last. So we better understand, and this is why we say insight, understanding, perspective, so that you're not waiting for white people to wake up and tell you one day, hey, it's over, we can't do nothing else, the country's gone to hell, you're on your own. You're already on your own. We need to know that, we need to understand it, and we need to do everything in our power to help ourselves. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad have talked about that and talked about the success that we will have. We get over $1 trillion a year, with a T, out of this economy. 1 trillion. We have people all around the world that would love to do business with us. So we have to understand that our survival is largely in our own hands. And I really believe that once you get involved, once you start sacrificing, once you get organized, then you want to hold people accountable. So I think that the more that we build for ourselves, the more we want to know what's happening at the local level. The more you want to know what's happening in Alderman. I'm trying to buy a house. I'm trying to build a business. What's happening with the schools, right? But it begins with us doing things for ourselves, not waiting for somebody else. This $50 billion loss that we take every year, right now, under current conditions, it's not going to magically disappear because white folks decide to give us anything. They've already telling us they're giving us nothing. Even with the $1 trillion packages that they passed with to deal with the COVID crisis, we find over and over and over again, we get little to nothing. So we don't have time to wait. We got to put more and more of our money into our own hands to save ourselves. And on the up note, we have seen during the pandemic, even though black businesses have been hurt, we've also seen an increase in black entrepreneurship. We've seen an increase in black folks saying, I'm not going back And now we've even got groups like this group, our page 5 store. This is about a group of black entrepreneurs who are looking to invest $126 million in other black owned farms. We need to take advantage of all of that.
Yes. Praise you to Allah. And you know, it's one of the things you lifted the holding, and that it made me really tie back and reflect on justice or else, and that because our goal and our position as citizens of the Nation of Islam, of course, is separation. That doesn't mean that we don't hold those accountable right now. If we're spending our tax dollars right now, that's the reality. Then we still have to hold those institutions responsible at this point in time and get
Yeah,
that which
and
our tax dollars are going.
and the more that you build and invest, the stronger you become. Because now you're in a position not to beg, but you're in a position to demand and to punish people economically, politically, socially. You're now in a position where those who are supposed to be your public servants, you're not begging them to deliver. Since you have mastered your unity and you've increased your understanding and you've taken responsibility for making your own communities safe and decent places to live, now you can start asking, well, what's happening with that money you got in that budget over there? I think these brothers in the nation can help make our streets a little safer. So why don't you give them some of the resources, right? So this is now, but it begins with us and a clear understanding and determination, and we will absolutely be successful. Nothing is
That's
going
right.
to stop us. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the minister said, and the minister talks about how at one point under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when the nation had farmland, I think it was in Texas, and it would rain on the land that belongs to the Muslims, and it didn't rain on the land that belonged to others who happen to be Caucasian. Then you might say, "Oh, brother, nah, but that's a fairy tale." But haven't you been outside and seen it rain on one side of the street and not rain on the other?
Yes, sir.
So we're not telling you, brothers and sisters, we don't engage in fairy tales because it is the belief in fairy tales and a mystery God and that which we don't understand, that we cannot prove, and that which makes no logical sense that has put us in the condition that we're in. So reality demands that we do everything we can for ourselves. And I think that when you do for yourself, there's a change in your mindset. You no longer feel like there's no hope. You no longer feel that you're being victimized. You now understand that you have an enemy that wants to victimize you. And you have to defend yourself against their assaults on all levels. And you understand that that's your job because you can't say you have an oppressor on the one hand and expect the oppressor to be your liberator on the other. No logical sense at all.
Praise you to Allah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You made me reflect on the song of Stevie Wonder. He says, "When you believe in things that you don't understand, you suffer. You
Mm-hmm.
believe in things that you don't understand, you suffer." And of course, our people are definitely suffering. And I think the comments that you made actually makes me, and that, one of the beautiful things about the paper is that you can see, even though we're skipping over the articles and we're not going to go through each article, is that there is a theme, and you can see how we're not just identifying the problems that are existing in our community. But if you look at the paper, you'll see that in therein lies the solutions to the problems as well. And I think the article that stands out to mind um, is this article, which it shows us how all of these things we're talking about are intertwined and interwoven. Is on page 9, the government's response to COVID-19 is forcing a separation. And of course, The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says in the book, Message to the Black Man, Allah will make you, I believe it's in Message to the Black Man, Allah will make you separate. But in Message to the Black Man, I know it is in there that it says separation is the best and only solution. Can you give us a little insight what's shared in this article by
it's absolutely all the things that we're seeing right now. Example one, Chicago. You're not supposed to be able to go to a restaurant and eat out unless you're vaccinated and can prove it. You have people losing jobs. You got to be vaccinated. Can't go to a gym. You got to be vaccinated. Can't go to a concert. You got to be vaccinated. Can't go to schools. Can't go here. Can't go there. And so what it is doing, as Dr. originally writes, and you can read about it in his article, it is bringing about a separation in the society. Those who want to or feel compelled to, or who have been intimidated, bullied, and bludgeoned into submission. And every day you're hearing about the unvaccinated being used as scapegoats. But I just saw something, I believe, yesterday, because a lot of the research about this stuff comes out of Israel. And I think there was something that was reported yesterday that Israeli officials are saying that a fourth booster shot is not working against Omicron. And you have more and more of these breakthrough. And how do you have these breakthrough infections that take out almost a whole basketball team? In Chicago, breakthrough infections took out almost half of the Chicago Bulls professional basketball team. You have professional football games canceled. Outbreaks of COVID-19. You had college football games canceled. Outbreaks of COVID-19. Now you're dealing with people who are in environments that are like 90, 95% vaccinated. And these people aren't just going around willy-nilly interacting with other people. And more, so that's on the one hand. You've even got people talking about, well, if you're not vaccinated and you get sick, should you get hospital care? Or how much hospital care should you get? That's on the one hand. But on the other hand, you've got a heavy response of people that are just refusing. They're refusing to be injected with this thing. This thing never done before. This thing created at warp speed, which is actually doesn't even exist, brothers and sisters. There's no such thing as warp speed. It's a term that comes out of the Star Trek movies. It doesn't even exist. But it was used to talk about getting something to market, these COVID-19 vaccines or experimental drugs, because typically it takes 5 to 10 years for a vaccine to be developed. So something ain't right here. And then the vaccine makers, after getting tons of money from the government, guess what? They made even more tons of money after putting out these things. Not to mention, we list every week the adverse effects of people who have used the COVID vaccines. It's right from the government. We don't make the statistics up. But you can read it every week, the actual facts. And you can see for yourself. And you can decide to go along with what you think the enemy is telling you, and if you think you can trust them, if you want to. Or you can go a different way. And we say, follow the man who's giving us divine guidance and do those things that's needed to protect yourself. Now, here we are almost 2 years into this pandemic, and we know high blood pressure, obesity, diabetes, all of these pre-existing conditions make one more susceptible to having a negative outcome from COVID-19. Where is the discussion about dealing with those underlying concerns? So everything is vaccine, 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 vaccine. Take the jab, take the jab, take the jab, take the booster, take the double booster, take the triple booster. And nobody can tell you not just what the immediate effects are. And they're not even talking about those things. Certainly can't tell you long-term effects. So again, read it by Dr. Ridgely. And we got other articles in that section as well. We publish it weekly. And that section is led by Sister Ava Muhammad. And you should read and learn and make up your mind what you need to do to protect your life and your family. That's what information is for.
Yes, sir. Praise due to Allah. And for those who may not be aware, and about how long has this section been in the paper now, Brother Naba?
It's probably been a year, maybe. Definitely. I mean, we've been reporting on this COVID thing since it broke. But definitely, I think this section is probably at least a year old. At least that.
Praise due to Allah. And it's out of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's love. And sometimes, people have made statements, well, I want to hear the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. What is he saying about COVID-19? What is he saying about the coronavirus? If you want to know his position, if you want to know the guidance that is being given, then you should check out the Final Call newspaper. You should check out, in particular, as it relates to this section of the paper that you can find every week, the COVID-19 and the U.S. policy on depopulation.
Yeah, and you can get directly his message from 2 years ago, the Criterion, delivered July 4th, 2020. And you can hear exactly what he thinks. You can hear exactly and see exactly what he said. Not only at that time, but in forecasting what would happen. And he said back then that America, China, and these other nations would not solve this virus. He talked about the virus then. This is 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Mutating and changing as if it's had a mind of its own. So look, go back, stop, look, listen, read, and watch and learn for yourself.
Yes, sir. Praise to Allah. You can see the address right there at the bottom. And check out the other lectures from the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan at media.noi.org. But if you want to see in particular that lecture, which is still it's still the truth and the revelation that was provided in it is still coming to pass. So if you want to know what's to come, you can check out and find that out by listening to that lecture, media.noi.org/video/the-criterion, where the minister talked about this pestilence from heaven, and that it would change, and that they would try to go at it, and it would still that they wouldn't be able to fight this. And the only way that they would be able to have any degree of success is that they would humble themselves and just be right. So make sure that if you want to be on the right side of time and history, and you want to find guidance for the lives of your family, your friends, and those who you care for, check out the lecture and make sure that you're staying in tune to what information you can get right here at the Final Call. Brother Naba. So I know we're not going to, as usual, we're not going to go through all the entire paper. Is there any other articles that you want to touch on before we move on?
Well, certainly we need to go check out our international section. And again, you can get this in the paper. You can get it at finalcall.com.
Starting on what page?
Well, it starts on page 13. But one of the other things that I think we should note is that this year marks 20 years of torture and counting at Guantanamo Bay from 9/11. It's been 20 years of people being held in this prison, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. No respect for their rights. Many not charged, most not charged with a crime, just waiting with no rights. It's been 20 years of this. in the name of protecting democracy and fighting the war on terrorism. So that's one, and we got a roundup of international news. We definitely want you to check out our Africa Watch column, which is later in the paper. And we got another feature we started running called Sister Space. We want you to check out that as well. And we got two very special pieces we're running, actually three that we're running. One is about the passing of James Ntume, a great musical prodigy and a cultural giant. And so we hope that you will take the time to read about him and his life, not just as a musician, but as someone who was actively engaged in trying to uplift our people, who was involved on the international scene, a great friend of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and Brother Abdul Akbar Muhammad, and Black folk in general, much more than a musician. So this is the type of thing, the type of story, the type of pictures. This is on page 16 in the paper. The type of reporting that you will get in the final call that you won't get other people, other places, so that we define and present our people and who they are for ourselves. We don't rely on anybody else to do that. So that's page 16. Then on page 17, we have coverage of the story of the Janazah service or the funeral of Sister Kahara Muhammad, the daughter of who passed away, the late daughter of Brother Student Minister Louis Muhammad, his wife, Sister Terry. And we really, we pray that Allah will uplift them and uphold that family and all who were loved and touched by Sister Kahara and the great work that her mother, her father do. And we extend our condolences in our prayers to Brother Nuri and his family. Then on page 30, we got a tribute to another great soldier in the cause of Islam, Brother Abdul Muhammad, who was Captain Emeritus of Muhammad Mosque No. 1 in Detroit, better known to us as Brother Roy Muhammad, longtime soldier, longtime servant. I mean, an incredible brother. So we want to pay homage and give honor to those who have served us. So we are very proud to have the opportunity to present the stories and the final the final tribute, if you will, to these wonderful people. Then on page 32, we've got our Africa Watch column, which deals again with Sudan. And then on page 33, we got a feature we've been running now, Sister Space, which is devoted to the stories, the voices, the concerns in particular of women. And it doesn't mean that this is the only place where those views, concerns, and stories will be told. But it is a space that we want to reserve, especially for that type of story. So feel free. Really hope you read it. And there's information at the end where you can reach out to us if you want to write something, if you got a story that you think needs to be told. And we are very happy, we're very glad, we're very honored, and we thank our staff, for being such hard workers, for being so committed, regardless to whom or what, regardless to who gets sick, regardless to who got COVID, regardless to who can't work, regardless to who can work. We thank our staff, every one of them, and our contributors for working so hard to give you not just a paper every week, but to give you a high quality paper every single week. So finalcall.com, go there, read, subscribe. Of course, on page 38, we offer our weekly acknowledgement of the men of the Fruit of Islam, the FOI, who take this truth to our people all around the country. And they've been doing it for the last 2 years nonstop. in the midst of a pandemic, wearing personal protection equipment and preserving their lives as they seek to save the lives of others. So when you're looking for examples of the work of Christ, and who said, "Go into the highways and the byways," when you're looking for examples of those that are looking to feed the sheep, you don't
That's
need
right.
to look any further than the ministry of Islam.
Praise due to Allah. Thank you, Brother Naba. And of course, like I said, if you're looking for guidance in this dark time, you can always come to your Nation of Islam. And there's a beautiful article, I believe, earlier on, as the mosque,
Page 6 should be page 6. The Nation of Islam is,
and that
is back open for in-person meetings, and you're all invited.
praise due to Allah. Thank you. I want to share one thing I have that I want to share with us as we talk about, and we want to definitely we keep um, your families and you, our supporters, in our prayers for those who have had the loss of life due to whatever cause, but in particular in this day and time, due to COVID 19, the coronavirus. And we pray that you will do those things that you can to protect and preserve your life as best as you can. And I know that we have, as Brother Naba said earlier, we have to be informed, and we have to, of course, at a certain point, you have to make your own decision. But it's best to make an informed decision. And one of the things that we can share with you from the Nation of Islam that we have is some things that, without a doubt, that I don't think that most would not argue with, is that if we have had, or as we strengthen our immune systems, we can put ourselves in a better position. And so if you haven't already purchased it and you don't already own it, we'd encourage you to make sure that you get the book, How to Eat to Live, books 1 and 2. It's our God-given immune system, the best defense against COVID-19. You can get that right there, Final Call store.noi.org. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, if we eat the proper food and eat at the proper time, the food will keep us living a long, long time. So, hey, try it. We've tried everything else. Why don't we try our own? Brother Naba, you got anything else for us before we close out? Well, and
Well,
actually,
again,
before that, go ahead, go ahead.
no, I'm just going to say we again thank everybody. We thank you for tuning in. So again, um, share, like, follow this show. Let us know if there are things that you want to see and have us talk about, or even if there's somebody that you'd like to have us bring on and interview as we expand this program as well. And we're also going to have to get a new logo, despite what Brother Trent is. But that's it. But continue to support media that supports you. Give your money, your
Praise.
time, and your attention to that which is devoted to your progress in your life. And that's the final call and the Nation of Islam.
I got one more quick one that I'd like to end on. Is, can you give us a sneak peek of next week?
Well, I'll just say a couple things. 10,000 feelers, that's interesting and important. Um, have you ever asked yourself what's happening with Haiti? I think we're going into the 12th year after this great earthquake. What's going on with that? And we got some other things that we're looking at too, possibly. Uh, so those are just a couple, but you want to stay tuned, and you want to come back and see.
Praise due to Allah. Thank you. Another edition and episode of Behind the Final Call cover story. You see, we back on it, Brother Naba. We're gonna keep it rolling by Allah's permission. We're hitting around 2:30 Central Time, so be on the lookout for us. Please stay tuned. We look forward to seeing your comments and your feedback. If you didn't get a chance to watch it live, go ahead and next time, if you're watching the recording, go ahead and try to catch us live. We'd love to see and hear what you got to say. Until next time, Behind the Final Call cover story. Peace.
Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.